Hello, everyone, and welcome to Amplify. I'm your MC, Peyton Jesse. I'm a senior at Dacula High School, and we are so excited to be here today to talk to you about the educational system and our views on it from present to the future of it. We have 9 speakers, and this would not be able to happen without GCPS allowing us to be here today. So we are so grateful to them for letting it. And the amazing person who started it all. So please welcome to the stage, Esther.
Thank you, Peyton. So when I first started Amplify, I approached Mill Creek High School's wonderful administration because I am also a student at Mill Creek. And when I first approached Dr. Idex about this event, I never imagined that Amplify could be held here today in Mill Creek High School's theater with all of these amazing people here to talk to us. So I'd like to thank everyone who made this event possible. Ms. Incy, Dr. Idex, Mr. McCrae, all of our county workers, GCPS TV, and last but not least, all of our amazing speakers and parents. This event started because throughout my high school experience, I noticed that even though in high school I'm always told, interact with your peers, talk with students, we never really get an opportunity to talk with people from other schools. The only time when I can recall that I really worked with other students is maybe during county events or county orchestras, places where not that many students get to go. So I figured, why not give all of these wonderful students a platform to share their ideas and to share the unique perspective that they bring from each of their respective schools. Today, I hope that we all learn something new today about the unique experience that each and every student holds about the universal experience that we students have, education. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Parv Mahajan. I'm part of the wonderful team that Esther put together to run Amplify. But today is not about me. It's about the speakers that you're about to hear from in just a couple of moments. Today, these 9 will share their important, innovative perspectives on education and their place in it. You guys will mess up, you'll drop words, drop phrases, be a little bit rambly. But that's okay. You may, as Toni Morrison said, only suture the places where blood already flows. That's okay too. Passion is never enough, neither is skill, but you 9 have done something that very few have the audacity to. You tried. And that trying is what's going to make all the difference because these 9 will be the leaders of tomorrow. Their ideas that today are so unclear, so rambly, so incoherent, those are going to be the ideas that are implemented tomorrow. So, from the team at Amplify Gwinnett, we encourage all of y'all to keep trying. Keep making changes. Keep doing things with other people, not just in the county, but outside of the county. Try to make the things that we talk about here today actually come true. You'll make mistakes, big ones, but keep trying. The world is counting on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Amplify team. To kick us off, we have Faith Ahukana from South Gwinnett High School.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Faith Ahukana. I am a senior at South Gwinnett High School, and this is my presentation on my perspective on education. As an international student who has witnessed 2 different school systems, I will forever commend Gwinnett County for their unlimited resources and opportunities available to students. This has been evident at my school through the use of Counselor's Corner, Success Saturday, Power Hour tutoring, and we even have our own college and career office. However, just like everything in life, there is always room for improvement. And I'd like to address 2 main points today. The first point I'd like to speak on is increasing teachers' salary. Teachers are one of the world's most valuable assets to society. And increasing their pay would not only motivate them, but would also give them the adequate funds without having to worry about additional sources of income. Statistics show that from 2019 to 2022, 13.25% of Gwinnett County teachers had to quit or transfer, compared with the statewide rate of 8.9% and the nation rate of 10.9%. Now, I'd like to touch on the increase of substitute teachers in schools. There has been a significant rise of substitute teachers in schools and a great turnover of teachers. The relationship between substitute teachers and the actual teacher is incomparable, as teachers know how to navigate and go through certain situations depending on the student. They know how to express themselves differently depending on the student. However, when there's constantly a substitute teacher in the classroom, not only are students not learning, but they're also losing a great connection with their teacher. The second part I'd like to talk about today is increasing the number of counselors in high schools. There's no doubt that counselors are an essential part of every high school student's life as they go through schedule changes, foster relationships with their students, and are part of various aspects of high school. According to the American Student Counselors Association, the recommended practice ratio is 250 students to 1 counselor. However, in the state of Georgia, it is 450 students to 1 counselor, and this does not provide an equitable opportunity to students. Counselors create bonds that last a lifetime. For example, my counselor, Ms. Anna Martirosian, is seated here today. Ms. Martirosian has shown me unconditional love and has never failed to cater to my needs. It is evident that after the COVID-19 pandemic, some students struggled with their emotional well-being and communication. My peers know what they want, but do not know how to traverse through a healthy conversation to get it. However, having a counselor at the student's disposal at any given time will help them navigate through their high school experience efficiently and effectively. With the mentioned points, I hope I have informed and enlightened you on my perspective on education. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Mariabel Azamar from Central Gwinnett High School.
Hello, my name is Mariabel Azamar. I'm a senior at Central Gwinnett High School, and today I'm going to be talking about how I think intelligence is being defined in our schools, and I think this is a really important topic to touch on in the grand discussion of school system reform. So think with me for a minute. Who comes to mind when you think of peers of yours who are very intelligent? If you ask a lot of students this question, they're going to think of the peer that has really good grades, high GPA, high standardized test scores, takes really difficult classes, ranks in the top 5% of their class, et cetera, et cetera. But they won't be thinking of their friend who's really good at art, or their peer who's really creative, their friend who's really good with money and is entrepreneurially minded, or the peer they know that is very savvy and resourceful and can think of multiple solutions to a problem, whether or not they have a lot of resources. The students they'll think of, truth be told, are students that happen to be really good at doing the things the school system wants them to be good at. And when you think about it this way, you realize that a lot of us have a very narrow-minded definition of what intelligence really is. Now, don't get me wrong, students that do have good grades, good test scores, are intelligent, but they aren't the definition of what intelligence is. They're not the epitome of it. They're just an example of how intelligence can take shape. Our school system completely glosses over the fact that there's many different types of intelligences, and that intelligence isn't defined by the narrowly set standards that they force upon students. Grades, which should be a communicator of a student's proficiency in a subject, have more so become this measure of how smart a student is. And you see this with students that have good grades, looking down students that have poor grades, schools that have a really high average standardized test score, looking down schools that have a low average standardized test score, or the college admissions process being very focused on grades and test scores. People that get good grades are people who just happen to be able to thrive in the school environment and are able to learn at the pace the school system wants them to learn at. But this is not the case for a lot of students. This is not the case for most students. I know a lot of people who are very intelligent, who have a lot of different passions, are good at many different things, who have very poor grades. But I know that their grades don't take away from the fact that they are very intelligent. This is something that I've had to unlearn, and this is something that the school system conditions us to believe. And it's not fair that only people that have the numbers they're the people that are labeled as intelligent. Again, grades should be a measure of a student's proficiency in a class. And the reason a lot of students don't have good grades is not because they're unintelligent, it's just because there is a lack of proficiency in the class they're in, and this comes from them being in a class that, is not conducive to their learning. Whether they're sitting in a class that doesn't engage them, that doesn't teach them in a style that connects with them, doesn't teach them in a rate that they can keep up with, or, doesn't teach them something that they're interested in. And these are all byproducts of a big problem in our school, which is standardization, wanting all students to learn the same things at the same rate, in the same style, and show their proficiency in the same way. And this is not going to benefit a lot of students. So most students end up sinking, and they end up thinking that they're unintelligent, when in reality, the school system is just not catering to their needs. The whole point of school is to make sure students learn, and we're failing at that. So here are a couple of solutions. One would be a more personalized curriculum. So broaden the curriculum so there are more things that students can learn about, while also keeping college and career readiness standards, which won't just be biology or chemistry or algebra or calculus, but be things like study habits, or anything that is needed for someone to be successful once they leave high school. This should be things that we still keep in our standards, but broaden it so people can have the freedom to learn things that they're interested in, that allow them to tap into their passions, tap into their intelligences, and develop those when they're in school. Another thing that we could look into is multiple models of intelligence, which would be project-based learning, where students can show their proficiency in skills through multiple mediums, whether it's through speeches or through presentations or through group activities or through songs, or anything that moves us away from paper pencil tests, because many kids don't show their proficiency the best through paper pencil tests. So this will allow kids to understand the importance of multiple mediums, as well as kids be able to show their proficiency in a way that they're comfortable in. All of our students are intelligent, and the school system doesn't allow all students to understand that. If we want to improve our education system, we have to stop allowing only some students to realize their potential, and instead allow all students the capability to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Garrison Andrews from Parkview High School.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Garrison Andrews, and I'm a junior at Parkview High School. Today, I'm honored to discuss with you the intersectionalities between education and discipline, and the need for a balancing factor of positive reinforcement. To start off with the point of shared experience, the pandemic was a difficult time for all of us. As parents, teachers, students, and staff, the pandemic changed our daily lives and the way in which we went about them. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 4 students experienced increased food and nutritional insecurity, while an additional quarter of students experienced parental job loss. More than half of students endured some form of emotional abuse as well, and a whopping 66% of students had increased difficulty completing their schoolwork. This was a national issue, and clearly not conducive to an optimal learning environment for our students. And unsurprisingly, this was followed by a period of increased disruptive behavior. Schools were forced to become more stringent and enforce their discipline practices, even more into a rigorous level. 46% of schools had increases in student altercations, more than 56,000 of which occurred in our state of Georgia alone. Education and discipline are inseparable, as discipline facilitates order, and order is necessary for education. However, it's important to state that discipline can also have ramifications, such as an instance where a student can receive an out-of-school suspension and reduce their graduation likelihood by 5% and lessen their ability to obtain that all-important high school diploma. I'd like to point to the graphic behind me. It reads world-class education. From TVs and offices, to teacher laptops, to our student Chromebooks, we see a constant model of what our theme is at GCPS, our mission, to provide every student with a truly world-class education. While the torch is not only the symbol of our district, but has been the symbol of education and all of its wonders throughout human and civilization's history. Academia is more of a coin, I'd propose, as you can't have one side without the other. Though discipline is critical, so is positive reinforcement. A program at the forefront of ensuring this balance is the Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports Program. It's been proven to reduce teacher burnout, get students more engaged in the classroom, and even reduce drug and alcohol abuse among students. As a PBIS student ambassador, I can attest that I have seen how it brings the community together. I'd like to leave you all with a formula. Discipline plus positive reinforcement equals successful learning and facilitates an environment in which we can provide a truly world-class education to our students, as well as educate them, the next innovators, leaders, and game changers of tomorrow. Thank you.
Can we get another round for Garrison? Our fourth speaker is Miles Kilpatrick from Shiloh High School.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Miles Kilpatrick, and I am a senior at Shiloh High School. Today, I'll be discussing the impact that teachers' relationships can have with students both in and outside of the classroom. Some teachers go above and beyond to make sure that their students learn more than just what the curriculum requires, building a relationship with those students, while others just do the bare minimum, trying to make sure that their students pass the test and get through the day every day. And even though that is enough on paper, you tell me which teacher you think will get better results from their students. There are several different strategies that teachers can use to have success with their students in the classroom, and I would like to talk about a few of those today. The first strategy I would like to talk about is something called the TIM model. The TIM model is something I heard being implemented at a school in Tennessee, which essentially means that everyone needs a TIM in their life. And I know you are all probably wondering, who's this TIM guy? But in reality, he just symbolizes an adult figure who's a role model for each and every kid, making sure they're being the best version of themselves each and every day. It is essential that students see their TIMs inside of school buildings so that they have proper motivation to achieve academic success. Because now they will get good grades and have good behavior, not just for the sake of having good grades and having good behavior, but also for the sake of making their TIMs proud. Two other key aspects I would like to talk about today are terms called positive self-talk and procedural self-talk. We all have that little voice in our head every day that's walking us through each decision that we make, and having that inner dilemma with ourselves. And sometimes those thoughts are negative, but other times they're positive. It's very important that while students are in school, they have positive thoughts opposed to negative ones, so they have the right attitude throughout the day. Because if students don't have the right attitude, then school as a whole is going to be bad for them. When students come across different questions on tests and quizzes that they might not be so sure about, if they have the right positive self-thinking thoughts, then their procedural thoughts will also be positive as well, and they'll know that they can be more confident in their abilities while taking a quiz or a test. There's been many moments throughout the course of my high school career, where I'll be taking a quiz or a test, and I can kind of envision the teacher telling me the answer or walking me through how to do a question or solve a problem, and almost like I'm replaying a memory. And there's only certain teachers that have the ability to do that, and the teachers that have the capability to make me replay memories in my head are what I like to call all-star teachers. Now, I know you're probably wondering again, what is an all-star teacher and where did this come from? And to be completely honest, all-star teacher is something I kind of just made up amongst myself to talk with my friends about giving those teachers we deemed worthy the right title and the proper respect they deserve. And those all-star teachers are the ones that go above and beyond to make sure that we learn more than just what the curriculum requires, and that we actually have a relationship with our teachers. And it's very important to have that with your students so that they respect you as more than just a person who's giving them tests. Now, imagine that as a student, you have an all-star teacher along with your TIM from the TIM model I alluded to earlier in the same person. That teacher can implement positive self-thinking thoughts along with procedural self-talk and being a role model to you better than anybody else in your life. There's no better person to be your Tim than one of your teachers. The more teachers that we have aspiring to be all-stars, trying to build good relationships with their kids, the better school buildings will be and the world as a whole will be, because having good relationships with teachers create bonds and memories that will last a life. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. Next up from GSMST, we have Hortencia, Kongolo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hortencia Kongolo, and I'm a sophomore at the Gwinnett School of Mathematics, Science, and Technology. Today, I'll be talking about the imminent threat the disregard of phonetic study in elementary children poses. In other words, how the education system is leaving behind skills that build a person's future. I should preface by saying this is in no way a way of demeaning educators today. This is looking at students and how they are receptive to the information they are given. So the first step to solving a problem is identifying it. Children don't like to read. And you could say that the rise of technology plays a role into it, but I'm focusing on the perceived boredom of reading. When you think of something boring, you think of being put on hold, you think of being in line at Six Flags, or you think of being stuck in Atlanta traffic. To a child, it'd be something like doing their homework, but that's the issue. Boring is made synonymous with hard. Nathaniel Peters, an adult with ADHD, emphasizes the difference between something boring and something hard. He writes that repeating something was terrifying because it's so much harder to stay focused than the first time. And I think that's applicable to elementary students when we look at why they're not reading. And it also begs the question, how is it difficult? How is it boring if you're not consistently doing something? Reading can be difficult, I second that notion, but I think it's important to look at why reading is difficult for elementary age children. In 2015, a Philadelphia school district determined that 56% of their third graders scored proficient on a reading test. And then the National Assessment of Educational Progress determined that more than 60% of American fourth graders are not proficient readers. With this data, we can determine that there are some discrepancies in reading and reading comprehension. So what can we as a community do to solve that? Teach phonics again. This can be done with the utilization of tools like iReady and Imagine Learning, and it can also be ensured that we have better levels of reading. And by using these tools, we can ensure that by second grade, at the very least, children are exposed to different phonetics and different letter sounds so they can build words and understand words better in reading. This prevents the fact that if not exposed by third grade, it would lead to a generation of weaker readers and then a generation of a future without reading. Thank you.
Next up from Grayson High School, we have Abigail Makumu.
Hello, everyone. I'm Abigail Malkamu, and I'm from Grayson High School, and I'm a junior there. So today I was invited to speak about how we could improve the American educational system, but I couldn't answer that question for you, so I decided to create my own. Of course, as in any country, there are some downsides to the educational system. For example, here in America, it's the expense of college and the lack of good schooling in poor neighborhoods. In Britain, it's the lack of teachers that puts a strain on existing ones. But because of my background, I've been able to realize that these negatives that we focus on prevent us from celebrating the positives of the American educational system. We are required to go to school up until we're 16 here in Georgia and 17 in other states. Transportation is widely available and required by the governments, and the application for higher education is straightforward for anyone and everyone of any age. Of course, it's not always easy, but it's available to anyone with the determination and drive to succeed, and that is more than what my family could say for themselves. I was born to two immigrant parents, both of whom are from Ethiopia, and they traveled across the world and left everything and anyone they have ever known to chase the American dream, not necessarily for themselves, but for their children. And the best way they knew how to do this was through education. And like many first-generation children, I was raised with my parents' stories about their educational struggles growing up, how they swam with alligators, parted the seas, and walked miles through the desert just to get to school. And while we may laugh and joke about this, part of this is true. For example, here in America, the average school day is about 8 hours, but in Ethiopia and other developing countries, the school day can span from 9 to 10 to 12 hours. And those extra hours aren't spent learning something new, but rather walking from home to school and from school to home. My mother, who, unlike myself and many other students, loved school actually, especially literature, and she really had a passion for it. But when her high school graduation date came, she was faced with the choice whether to pursue this passion or to stay home with her family. And while for us it may be very clear that yes, we should go to college, yes, we should pursue this, for her it was not, because every day she came home to her mother who was struggling to provide for herself and her 10 children. So why should she be the one to place this financial burden on the people she loved most? So ultimately, this led to her decision to not pursue a higher education. But what if she was born here in America? What if instead of having 10 children, her mother only had 2? What if instead of walking hours every day just to get to school, she had free transportation? What if instead of paying for the next 4 years out of pocket, she had things like community college, financial aid, and scholarships to help pay for that? What if instead of speaking to no one about this huge decision, she had guidance counselors to help her with this? All these things that we have in America, all these things that allow us to literally change our lives, to change my own life, to change my family's lives, are not available in developing countries like Ethiopia or Honduras or Afghanistan. In America, we have the tools to build a better life. And that is because of our educational system. So I don't think the question should be on how we can improve our educational system, but how we can share these tools with the rest of the world so we can build a more equitable and prosperous future for all. Thank you.
Next, we have Noor Maiden from Mill Creek High School.
Our school system is failing the impoverished. My name is Nora Alexis Maiden, and I'm a first-generation immigrant attending Mill Creek High School. And today I'll be talking about how students in poverty are given less opportunities to learn and thrive. According to the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute, over 62%, or more than 1 million of Georgia's public school children, are considered economically disadvantaged today because they participate in the federal free and reduced price lunch program. The federal free and reduced price lunch program provides free breakfast, lunch, tests, field trips, and club fees. But for students who just barely pass the threshold of poverty, even by $1, no benefits is received. This provides a barrier for students who are unable to pay for these opportunities. According to College Board's official website, each AP test for 2021 to 2022 costs $96. In Gwinnett County, GCPS pays for all additional exam fees for students who are eligible for the free and reduced lunch program. AP tests, which can be a make or break for college acceptance and certain scholarships, should not be locked behind such a hefty due, and the ability for high schoolers to attain a college credit in high school should not be locked behind these fees. Another opportunity that's designed for the wealthy is clubs. At Mill Creek High School, in 2022, National Beta Club had a mandatory fee of $25. Best Buddies Club had a mandatory fee of $45. Both of these clubs are volunteering clubs aimed towards helping the community. The ability to help special needs children and help our community shouldn't be locked behind mandatory fees. And while club fees and field trips might have to be paid for, there should be an option made free to students who can't afford these dues. Now, how can we work on this? One good example is that in 2023, Gwinnett County provided an option for juniors between a free gateway or a free SAT. This is a good example of what should be done and how a test that should be free was made free for everyone. Clubs should also be made free. I know that there's certain dues that have to be paid, but there should be a free option where you don't get club shirts, but you can still participate in club activities. I also think that AP tests should be free. Such a pivotal opportunity that helps students get scholarships and accepted into major colleges shouldn't be locked behind such major dues. Additionally, in the Gwinnett County Blueprint for the Future, a summary of GCPS's plan for upcoming school years states that Gwinnett County will strive to expand student opportunities to engage in and access high-quality, rigorous, and culturally relevant curriculum, advanced coursework such as AP classes and dual enrollment, and enrichment activities. By equalizing opportunities for all students, we can work towards a future where no student is denied entry into clubs and tests because of their wealth. Thank you.
Please welcome Irene Roger Medina from Archer High School.
Good morning, parents, students, and educators. My name is Irene Roger Medina, and I am a junior at Archer High School of Gwinnett County Public Schools. I am here today not only as a student, but also as an advocate for teachers. My family is full of educators, so throughout all my life, I've heard all kinds of different input on how we can make education better. We all recognize the importance of education, and I believe it is imperative we make changes in order to achieve our full potential. Having more effective measures of academic performance, I believe, will improve our system. Now, I am not saying that standardized testing should be completely removed off the boards, but we should have more effective and efficient ways to measure the performance of students, teachers, and even schools as a whole. According to the Governor's Office of Student Achievement, those schools with a higher percentage of economically disadvantaged students do not perform at a rate comparable to those who have a lower percentage of economically disadvantaged students in their demographic. For example, at my former middle school, which is in an affluent community, 16% of the students are economically disadvantaged. Meanwhile, at my mom's school, an urban middle school in Metro Atlanta, 93% of the students are economically disadvantaged. My former middle school continues to perform better than my mom's school. Now, this does not mean at all or whatsoever that the students at my mom's school are any less capable of performing well than the ones at my school. This is about the socioeconomic cycle. The socioeconomic cycle is about the experiences which that students have that they will help them when they go to school, and the necessary background knowledge to thrive and achieve an educational performance equally successful. This essentially explains to us that those students from low-income families are substantially less prepared than their counterparts that come from middle and high-income families. Those schools that struggle with economic equity are stuck in this unbreakable cycle of start with less, get less. Students who receive less continue to either fall behind or try to play this game of catch up. Standardized testing makes it impossible for the students to try to catch up. So it is absurd to believe that these standardized testing will help us close that academic gap. This leads me to my next point, college prep. Not every student wants to attend a four-year college, but rather wants to either go directly into the workforce or their personal reasons changes their plans. For this reason, the students should take classes that are for their chosen career path. Furthermore, standardized testing should be related to the chosen career path by the student. Those standardized testing already exist. For example, CTAE testing. This CTAE classes prepare students in different vocational fields. Students choosing a career path should follow a curriculum developed to prepare the student to enter the workforce upon graduation. Standardized testing can still be used to measure student achievement like the end of pathway exams, which we already have in our schools. The Georgia milestones may include skills that are not necessary or required for the career path in which the students want to go into. So therefore, we should use these CTAE testing. To tie it all together, a community with economic struggles will benefit from a school that prepares students to enter the workforce upon graduation. More career-ready high school graduates produces a workforce that continues to stimulate the economy and encourages economic growth. Undoubtedly, if we as a community use student strength rather than their disadvantages, we will be able to move forward towards an educational preparation that excels among others. Thank you. They're right this time.
So as I said before, my name is Peyton Jesse, and I'm a senior at Dacula High School. Now, I remember myself in elementary school. I would be the first person to raise my hand for every single thing. I was excited to come to school. You've never seen a 6-year-old more ready to get out of the car and leave their parents just to go and get an education. I love my teachers. I love the students, my peers. I love talking to people. And then one day, I realized that that wasn't the reality for everyone. Not everyone liked being there. Not everyone wanted to be there. And of course, as someone who was bright-eyed and happy and just excited to be in a room filled of people of my age and to be able to talk to them, I didn't understand that. I couldn't understand it. And at first, I thought, no, it has to just be them, of course, because I like it, so why wouldn't they? And that's exactly what got me into educational systems and learning how to reform them, learning how to make it for each and every student, just like GCPS says it will be. Now, with all that said, I would love to state that I know exactly how to change education. I know exactly what to do, how to implement anything to make it better for tomorrow. But I don't. I don't know what to do, and I'm assuming if we did, it would have been done by now. But although I don't know what to do, just like I said at the beginning of this seminar for Amplify, I'm here to make waves, to make ripples, and hopefully with enough help from other people, we will make typhoons. Now, instead of going and criticizing education, I have 3 points of the future that I think will happen. And this is exactly how I believe we should go about it. Number 1 would be product-based to collaborative. Now, this is kind of a wordy sentence or a wordy phrase, but basically it's going from a product-based system of these students have to get this certain amount of work done, these students have to compete with each other to be ranked. This is not only negative to mental health, but this is negative in the collaborative aspect. And we see more and more today that we are not able to come together as people. We view everything as an us versus them mentality instead of us working together to reach an equal goal and solve an equal problem. Going from a product-based to collaborative will not only help in the classroom, but it'll help every single day. We see it in politics, in the work environment, or even, once again, in classrooms when it comes to a teacher level, that we are not able to discuss and communicate as we should be able to. Going and making sure this is a priority will help every single person in every walk of life. And this goes perfectly into the next one of equal gifts. Now, I use everything as an example, so I'm going to use a personal example here. I have 2 amazing friends. They're great. One of them, she is super talented in mathematics. I'm talking about trigonometry equations in her head type, gifted. It's insane. She doesn't need calculator. She forgot it for the SAT, actually, and still got a 1580, I want to say. Perfect score in math. It was incredible. I have another friend. He is an artist. I'm talking photography type paintings. If you look at it and you don't look well enough, you're going to think it was a picture because how talented he is. Now, they're both talented, of course. I both give them compliments equally. I both look at their gifts and say, wow, this is amazing, because I can't do that. But, of course, if we look at both of them, which do you think, student 1 or student 2, is going to actually get opportunities in the future? Of course, student 1. They're good at math. Now, of course, we might say, and you might argue, well, mathematics is something that you will use in everyday life. But to quote from my favorite movie, Dead Poet Society, medicine, engineering, law, these are all noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, love, beauty, romance, these are what we stay alive for. We cannot have it where we rank a hierarchy of gifts in the educational system. We cannot compare 2 students with different abilities and say one is lesser than the other. Once again, going to the mental health aspect, without showing that we cherish every gift as individuals and as people, we are listing the priorities of a system that is not even created. We are having it where a student is going to think less of themselves and most likely give up on that beautiful talent and gift instead of pursuing it naturally. This goes into my last part of opportunities like this. To be here on a stage, especially when I used to not even be able to speak to someone else because I would get nervous, or definitely not get on stage without throwing up beforehand, This is an opportunity. And this is my ability to be able to speak to each other and once again communicate. Now, I'm assuming we all know what survival of the fittest is, but for those who don't know, I'm taking AP Bio now, so this is something that I hear every single day. Survival of the fittest is basically where you have two species, for example, and whoever has the most fit traits to go against that environment, especially if environmental changes happen, they're going to be most likely to survive. We usually use survival of the fittest as something of, well, this moth has this certain color. We've all heard this example. Therefore, the trees, they can hide on them better. So when anything happens, a predator comes, they're going to be the less likely to get caught. Therefore, they're surviving by having the fittest traits. Or maybe in the predator aspect, they have certain beaks, for example, Darwin's. Their beaks are more suited for the seeds in that certain ground, in that environment. Therefore, they're going to survive because they are able to eat instead of the other ones. But another thing about surviving, fitness-wise, is actually communication. They talk about this all the time, but we forget and we disregard it. Communication in a species, and whoever talks to each other more to survive are the more likely to be able to reproduce for next generations to come. And the ones that work alone as individuals instead of talking to one another have always died throughout entire history. This is an event, and this is a time that we can all come together and speak to one another to combat a specific issue and combat for a goal that we all want to achieve. So, to end everything, I encourage you to go and not only hear this now, and not only hear this whether you're listening from your seats or listening online, but hear this and see what you as an individual can do for a change. Thank you. So to do a closing, I want to introduce every speaker again and have them come up on the stage. Every person you see right now has worked extremely hard to have their presentation and be able to present it to you. And every single one of them did an amazing job, and I'm so proud of y'all. Y'all did great. So please give another hand to them real quick. And thank you so much. Thank you for this Amplify event, and once again, thank you to GCPS for allowing us to be here today. We are so excited to have y'all be able to use this and use this seed to plant a tree, and then that tree will hopefully become a forest. So thank you so much and have a great day.